Chapter 13, Morality or Ideology, from the First Book of Christ for Atheists. This is available through YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, or you can buy this the book through Amazon for $20. Something dramatic came out of this, morality or ideology. As I felt I was living a good ethical life, much of what I believed I was taught or influenced by others. I believed our leaders had to defend democracy in Vietnam. I was told that the domino effect would result in all of Southeast Asia turning communists, as Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, etc. would fall one by one unless the West stepped in. America tried to prevent communism from spreading into South America. Honduras, Chile, Cuba, Guatemala were all poor countries. The American vision was to have a free market with small government. All these countries had evolved to have really rich and really poor people. By the U.S. only supporting stable government, armed revolutionaries would continue to operate to try to topple the government that controlled the power and the money. My dad could have worked for starvation wages if the company he worked for chose to squeeze the labor force. This happened in the tobacco industry in the USA and continues with miners digging for precious metals in Africa. The garment industry is notorious for exploiting workers. We just turn our backs. Why is it like this? I believe it is because of a large workforce to choose from and greed by the owners. In Ireland, I saw company houses for employees of Guinness. That says a lot about the ownership and their care for their employees. Not until I saw villages being torched by napalm and children being burned to death in the streets of Hanoi did I realize that I was following ideology and not morality. I had to change my point of view. Later, I saw the results of a totally capitalistic state and compared it to countries, particularly in Europe, where their citizens shared in the cost of healthcare, education, and pensions, and where the people were happier and more content. Vietnam fell to the communists, and 50 years later, they have a government that takes care of its people and keeps their independence from China and any other country that would dare meddle in their affairs. People taking care of people isn't so bad. If you don't agree, call it communism. If you agree, call it social programs. The risk that communist countries have is that with totalitarian regimes run by leadership with warped ideas or just crazy people, Afghanistan is an example as I see it, where the Americans supported mainly military efforts when bringing a better life to the citizens through schools, hospitals, equality for women, and social support would have been a better result than supporting a corrupt government. I guess the Americans felt that they were doing well by spending billions on American-made bombs and tanks and calling it foreign aid. Women should have been trained as soldiers with weapons here, so those cowards that would suppress women would have a fight on their hands. This wasn't done. Pentagonoria doesn't work, and as we move forward, conflicts in the world must be settled by those involved. The USA, if it chooses to provide stability to the world, should act as a negotiator. Goods and services and trade agreements can go a long way to get adversaries to compromise. Armed force is what allows dictators to stay in power. North Korea just has to look south to see how life could have been without a dictator. Fear of death keeps the masses in line, as well as having no weapons to fight back with. Maintaining public services such as schools and hospitals was never considered as part of what USA should do to keep tyranny out of various countries. The Taliban could return because the public resented corrupt government supported by the Americans. As the Russians invade Ukraine, it must be up to the democracies to help by supporting Ukraine. If I were recruiting mercenaries for Ukraine, I would recruit in countries like Haiti and other poor countries. Impoverished lands breed desperation, and desperation breeds violence. offering the gangs of marauders in poor countries to lucrative contracts to fight the Russians, and Ukraine could reduce the age of conscription and would provide a combat-ready group of troops to help defend the Ukrainian homeland. It's sad knowing Cuba is sending soldiers to kill Ukrainians, but that's what happens. It's killing without a cause. Back in 1956, we had a student in our class whose family escaped from occupied Hungary, which was under the Iron Curtain. He told me, "Thou shalt not kill," does not apply to Russians because they are animals. Whatever trauma he went through to escape Hungary never left him. Tibor Sapel committed suicide in his 20s. Russia continues to be a nation of barbaric leaders.